Today we're going to make homemade air dry clay. Let's get started. Welcome back, my most amazing artists. Are you ready for another really fun project? Today we're going to be making our own homemade clay, but we're not going to work in the art studio. We're going to the kitchen. Get ready, I'll see you there. Hi everybody, it's time to gather our supplies. First you'll need a metal or glass bowl, a pan to put on the stove, a 1 cup measuring cup, a 1/2 cup measuring cup, a liquid measuring cup, a tablespoon, stirring spoons, and a Ziploc bag for storage. In addition, you will also need 1 cup flour, 1/2 cup salt, 1 tablespoon vegetable or olive oil, 2 tablespoons cream of tartar powder, 1 cup water, and optional food coloring. Gather all those supplies and let's get ready to make our own homemade clay. To start the clay dough project, we're going to have to mix our dry ingredients. You can use a metal bowl or a glass bowl, it does not matter, but make sure it's pretty big because we're going to make a lot of dough. First thing I'm going to start with is 1 cup of flour. Make sure you measure it out with a parent if you need help, and make sure you're looking for the 1 cup marker on your measuring cups. Go ahead and dump it in. It's a lot. Next, you're going to measure out 1/2 cup of regular salt. It needs to just be regular table salt. If you don't have it, you can get it in this kind of container at the store. Again, you're going to dump that also into the bowl. Okay. Now you'll see some wet ingredients here. Don't add the wet ingredients yet. We're only doing dry. So our final dry ingredient is actually this little tiny jar called cream of tartar. You can also substitute something called alum, but cream of tartar is much easier to find, and it's in the grocery store with the spices. So we're going to be adding in 2 tablespoons, okay? So a tablespoon is a specific measurement. It's usually the largest one. So this is 1 tablespoon. And then I do need to do another one. Remember, have a parent help you if you need help holding it and measuring. Okay, there's my second one. And that's it for my dry ingredients. And then I'm gonna go ahead and use either a wooden spoon, a fork, a regular spoon, anything I wanna use to mix those dry ingredients. I want them to be all mixed together so they're evenly distributed. So the salt is mixed thoroughly with the flour and the cream of tartar, which the cream of tartar is going to act as what we call a preservative. And that is going to make it so that your dough can last for up to 6 months if you store it in a plastic bag. Okay, so my dry ingredients are done. I'm going to leave those aside and I'm going to move on to the stove. So before you go to the stove, make sure you ask a parent first. Never, ever, ever turn on the stove without a parent there or a guardian or a care provider. Okay? I'll see you at the stove. So for our next step, we're going to have to ask an adult to help us turn on the stove to medium heat. You can see I have an electric stove. Some of you might have a gas stove. Always keep your handle in and always have a parent supervising and helping. First thing you're going to do is pour in 1 cup of water. You can use a liquid measuring cup. Measure out 1 cup of water, okay? And then you're gonna add in 1 tablespoon of cooking oil. I'm using a vegetable oil, but you could use almost any type of cooking oil. You could use olive oil. I find vegetable oil is easy to find and it works really well for this recipe, but either one of those oils, olive oil, vegetable oil, can work, okay? Once everything's in, I'm gonna put these over to the side and I'm going to let that come to what we call a boil. Now, when we boil something, you can use something to stir a little bit because remember the oil and the water have to come together here. Okay, I'm gonna let that heat up for a moment. So we'll do a little time lapse to make that go a little faster. So now we've removed it from the hot stove area and we put it on a cool area. And this is the point where you're going to have to add the drops of food coloring if you want it, okay? Now you can add it or you can keep it plain. If you keep it plain, the dough is going to be sort of an off-white color. I'm going to do blue for this one. You only need a few drops, and probably a good idea to make sure you're wearing a smock or something to protect yourself. And wash off your hands right away, because the dye, even though it's for food, it can stain your hand. Gonna mix it in. I'm gonna sit and let this cool for a moment until I'm gonna add it into the dry ingredients. So at this point, I've been letting my liquid ingredients cool off for several minutes, like at least 15 minutes. And now I'm gonna go ahead, and again, you need an adult to do this part, because remember, this liquid is not completely cold. So I'm gonna pour it into the dry ingredients. Okay, then I'm gonna put this pan away. And now I'm gonna start stirring the wet and the dry together. So you can see what color I chose. In the opening video, you saw that I made a pink dough. For that, I used just a small amount of red dye. If you use the red food coloring, if you want it to get red, you really have to put a lot in, but to get it pink, you just put a small amount. So you can see it's already becoming a dough. Kind of reminds me of the Smurfs, if anybody remembers that cartoon or knows that cartoon. Probably your parents might even know that cartoon from the 1980s. I'm gonna keep going. See, I still have some flour there on the bottom that needs to get mixed in, some flour and salt mixture. This is a little bit tough, so if you're on the younger side, you might want to have a parent helping. Before I start playing with my dough, I've actually put down either a piece of wax paper or parchment paper so it doesn't stick to the countertop or the table that you're working on. And I would suggest taping this down in the corners so that it doesn't move. And this is kind of like your clay mat that we have at school, right? So the blue is fresh out, and the pink I made a couple days ago. So it's actually a little bit stiffer, and that's because it's been in a plastic Ziploc. So it will stiffen up a little bit and it'll become more moldable, and you can press it, you can peel it, pinch it apart. You can make coils like we have before. You can make a ball by moving it back and forth. And it's just really fun to squish in your hands. You can let it air dry if you make something that you want to harden. It will take several days to become something. But you definitely can use this like an air dry clay. So if you wanted to make like a little pinch pot, right, you can make like something to hold things. Okay, you could make a coil pot if you made a whole bunch of these and then you kept wrapping them around and around and around. You can make anything you want, just have a lot of fun with it. Now, if you want to make different colors, but you want to make smaller amounts, it's a little challenging because I don't suggest adding the food coloring to the dry ingredients, because it really needs to be mixed in with the wet ingredients. You can see this one is much softer. This one's a little harder. I find after a day it gets to its best consistency, but you can judge. This is actually still a little bit warm in my hands, but again, it warms up because your hands make it warm. So just have a lot of fun. Hope you had a fun time learning. You can practice making all kinds of shapes, balls, coils, even pinch pots, and just experiment, have fun pressing and enjoying a three-dimensional experience. Hope you loved the homemade clay. See you soon.